Don't forget to like and subscribe to Jolie Knots Crochet. Hit share, go ahead and share with your friends, or you can hit that little bell to get notifications when new patterns release. Hi everyone, welcome back to Jolie Knots Crochet. I'm Crystal, and today we're going to be making these twisted braided beanies. Now, let me explain to you what we used and how we're going to get this. Now, this is pretty much a Jacob's Ladder pattern in a sense. I mean, it's a play on that with them moving sideways and half double crochets in continuous rounds. We're going to finish the brim off with a double crochet front and back post. Now, we've done this in a twisted braid as well as in the straight braid, and I'll teach you how to do either or. This is the other one that I did. Now, both of these are adult sizes. This is an adult extra large size. Now, you can put a pom-pom on this, but in my opinion, the slouchiness of this beanie allows the top to fall towards the back of your head and shows this really beautiful braided design on the top. So this is customizable. You can make it longer from the crown down to the brim to be more slouchy, or you can make it shorter to be more fitted and this to be at the top of your head. All right, now let's talk yarn and sizing. Okay. Yarn B from Hobby Lobby, picked that up on clearance this summer. This is also Yarn B from Hobby Lobby. I picked that one up on clearance last summer. This one's Red Heart from Hobby Lobby. Picked it up on clearance just this summer. So all three of these yarns say that they're 4-weight. Now I can guarantee you this is not a 4-weight yarn. This one is not a 4-weight yarn, and this one is a little bit closer to a 4-weight yarn, but it's a little bit also on the thicker side. It's a heavier 4. This one's a lot closer to a 3, and you can tell also this, let's see, this one is Red Heart Colorscapes. It is a 100% acrylic yarn, okay? It says that it's a medium 4-weight and to use a 4.5mm hook. Now for this project here, I used a 6mm hook, and it's still pretty tight. I'm not sure how tight it would, I mean, it doesn't have a lot of flow for a hat, which could be good for some people or not good. It depends on your preference. But with 6mm hook, I think that that's pretty sufficient. It's more like a bulky 5-weight yarn. Okay, and I'll show you the difference. Now this one here, this is Yarn B Chloe in the color French Rose. It's 3.5 ounces also. This one is also 3.5 ounces, but this one holds 270 yards, where this one only holds 187 yards. So that's a big difference right there. And the look of them in a pattern is totally different. I mean, I even used a 5.5mm hook with this one to get it even smaller. So each one of these hats I used a different hook size. So I want to explain to you yarn thickness and hook when you are trying to create your patterns, because it really does make a difference. So this one I would consider more of a 3-weight yarn, and this one more of a 5-weight yarn. Now this one is the closest to 4 out of all of them. It's also 3.5 ounces, 169 yards. It is Yarn B's Aurora Borealis in the color Dusk Dance. Now, like I said, this one I picked up last year. It's 100% acrylic, and the recommended hook size is a 5.5mm. I think if I used a 5.5mm with this yarn, I probably would have gotten something a little bit closer to this.
but instead I used a 6.5 millimeter. This is the one we're doing our tutorial on today. So I used a 6.5 millimeter with this heavier 4-weight yarn. It's still on the heavy side. All right. So depending on your yarn and what you have got going on with your hooks and the sizing that you want, make your decision on what you're doing. So with this yarn, with the tutorial that we're using today, I'm using the Aurora Borealis, which is more of a 4-weight yarn, and we're using a 6.5 millimeter hook. So choose a 4-weight yarn that's a little bit thicker. Now you can adjust the sizing of this hat on your own by doing more rows of increases. We're going to increase by 12 per increase row. You can do that as well as going down more rows for the crown to make it larger. So this one I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 braids down, and those are going straight down, they're not twisting. And this one I've got 10. Now this one I've also got 10, but it's still a pretty big difference in sizing. All right, so go ahead and get the materials that you need. You are going to be needing some scissors and a tapestry needle to cut off and weave in your ends. I forgot to mention, I only used one skein of these all, just one. You should only need one skein of yarn for your hats if they are close to 200 yards, so about 100 grams of a 4-weight yarn. Okay, so in order to get this started, we're going to start with a magic ring. Now the magic ring that I'm going to use, it's really simple. The easiest way to remember how to do this magic ring is to essentially you're creating a slip knot backwards. Typically when we create a slip knot, we pull our working chain through, and then when we pull on that working chain, our slip knot gets tighter. Creating it backwards, when you pull on your tail end, your knot gets smaller. So that's how we're going to do that. So first thing is first, backward slip knot, and then we're going to chain 2, and we're going to keep our ring right here and we're going to work into our ring. All right, so for round 1, we're putting 12 half double crochets. Now when you put your half double crochets, we're also going to be adding a chain of 10. So 1 half double crochet and then chain 10. Once you've got your chain of 10, you're going to slip stitch into the front of your half double crochet. So let me show you here. Every half double crochet has those 3 rings across the front. That's what we're slip stitching into. Going into all 3 rings and putting a slip stitch. So we're going to have a series of 12 of these. Straight from there, we're going half double crochet inside your magic ring again, chaining 10, and now we're slip stitching into the front of the 3 rings. All right. Now straight from there, half double crochet, chain 10, and then slip stitch. So you're going to do that 12 times. You're going to have 12 of these little chain 10s Go ahead and work that around and I'll show you how to close this up. Okay, so now that we've got our 12 half double crochets with our chain 10s, we are going to find our tail end right there, and we're just going to pull it. Now that tail end is going to be adjustable, so it's allowing our ring to get tight, but I can pull it open. And this is where a lot of people mess up with the magic ring, is they don't weave their end in really well, and then they snip it too close, and that's when it starts opening. So when you weave your end in, make sure that you're going around several times and tying off a good knot. Okay, now we're going to find the top of our half double crochet. This project is not going to be worked in separate rounds. We're going to be working in continuous rounds. So this was the first stitch of our last row, and now we're going to get started on round 2. Now we don't necessarily need stitch markers because our loops that we've got here to create our braids, those are going to act as our markings. So we are going to put 2 half double crochets in between every single loop. This is our increase row. Okay, once you do that, you'll bring your little loop to the beginning or to the front. And to find your next half double crochet, you'll see these 2 top loops right before your chain 10 come. Those are the ones you're working into. That's the top of your half double crochet. So we're putting 2 half double crochets in between each set of loops. Now the next one. Okay, so here we are. I've reached the beginning of round 2, and the reason I know that it's the beginning is because there's already 2 half double crochets between these 2 loops. So the way this pattern is working, we're going to do a row of half double crochets with loops and a row of half double crochets without loops. And when we increase, we're increase on our half double crochet rows without loops. So that was our increase. Now we're putting a row with loops. So right after our first loop, there's a half double crochet there. That's going to be our first half double crochet after each loop. And we've got 1. Now, here's your next half double crochet. There is a half double crochet that looks like it comes right before it, and one that looks like it's right on top of it. The one that comes right before it, that's the one we're putting our loop in. So half double crochet, chain 10, and slip stitch to the front 3 loops of your half double crochet. And those are our 2 worked into. So move your loop forward, and now we've got 1 more half double crochet to work, 1 more half double crochet to work, and this one falls right before the loop, and that's the one we're going to put our 10 in. So right now for this round you should have 1 half double crochet with a loop, 1 regular half double crochet, 1 half double crochet with a loop, 1 regular half double crochet. This technique that we're doing right here, making the loop just on the side of it or just before it, that's going to give us our twisted look. That's what's going to make our braids start twisting around. Now, if you choose to put your loop right behind the loop already made in that half double crochet, the look that you're going to get is different. Your braids are going to go down a lot smoother. They're going to still have a slight twist to them, but they're going to be pretty much straight. So depending on what your project is, if you're doing the straight braids or the twisted braids, then you're either going to put your loop, your chain 10 loop right before your previous loop or right on top of your previous loop. So let's go ahead and finish this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Slip stitch to the front, and we should just be alternating. Go ahead and continue to alternate, and I will meet you right back here at the end of the round. All right, so here we are at the end of our round. Now I know this is the end of our round because I'm working on a loopy round, and I've already got a loop here. So that's how I know that my next round is starting. Now my next round, like I said before, is strictly half double crochets, but we're increasing in our half double crochet rows. So I'm gonna half double crochet until right before our loop. I'm gonna pull my loop forward and I'm gonna find the half double crochet after, and that's the one I'm gonna put 2 half double crochets in. That's where I'm increasing, right after the loop. So I should have 1 half double crochet right before the loop, and then I should have 2 half double crochets right after the loop. And that's how we're increasing. So working that around, 1 half double crochet before, move your loop over, 2 half double crochets after. So you should have a total of 36 stitches in this round. Go ahead and continue that, and I will meet you back to start our next round of loops. Okay, so now we have gotten to the next round, and I know that because I've already got half double crochets worked around this loop. So this round that we're doing here, remember the half double crochet that shows itself right before your loop. That's the one we're working a half double crochet in our loop. Now if you're making the straighter loops, you're going to work it right behind the half double crochet. So I'm making the twisted braid, and so I'm going to do mine right before. I've got my chain of 10 and my slip stitch. I'm not increasing in this round, so I should have half double crochet with a loop, another half double crochet after, one more after, and then my third one should have a loop. So I should be in multiples of 3 right now. And you should still have 36 stitches at the end of this round. So go ahead and work your half double crochets and your half double crochet loops all the way around. I'll meet you back at the next round where we will be increasing again. All right, here we are at the end of our round because I've got my loops presenting themselves, so I need to work my half double crochets across it. Let me show you. This is what your work should look like so far. Just a whole bunch of loops. Soon enough, we are going to be putting these loops together, and they're going to start turning into braids. Kind of like this. And then we'll have braids going around. All right, so let's get this row taken care of. Now remember when I told you we were increasing, we did 1 half double crochet before our loop and then 2 half double crochets after our loop. That same increase rule still applies. However, this time we're just going to have 1 extra half double crochet in between the 2. So you should have in between each loop 2 half double crochets in 1 stitch, 1 half double crochet in the next, and then 1 in the next. That should take you right up to your loop. Move your loop out of the way, working behind into the next half double crochet. That's where we're going to have our 2. So this is our increase round. At the end of this round, you should have 48 half double crochets. And then we're going to do a round of loops. Now, if you're working a child size, 48 is going to be where you stop increasing. If you're working an adult size, 60 is going to be where we stop increasing. Now, if you're working a really extra large size and you need something really big and slouchy and you don't want it to be tight, you're going to go to 72. Now we're going to decrease after that before we put on our band or our ribbing. So don't worry about thinking if that amount of stitches is too many. So this will be, like I said, your last increase for a child size. All right, here we are at the end of our increase row. My half double crochets are presenting themselves to me, and that's where I'm going to start my loop set. Half double crochet, chain 10, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, slip stitch to the front of your half double crochet, and continue. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you should have 1 half double crochet with 10 loops on it. Every 4th stitch. So this round should still have a total of 48 stitches. Okay, here we are at the end of the round. We should have 48 stitches total. Now this is going to be where you stop for a child size. When you stop for a child size, you will not increase anymore, and you'll continue working your half double crochet rows and your half double crochet loop rows. But after your loop, we will only be putting 1 half double crochet. You will not be having that increase. Now I'm going to continue one more increase to make this one an adult size. So again, if you are working a child size, you should have 48 stitches. If you're working an adult size, we are going to increase one more round to 60 stitches. So go ahead and continue that as an adult, and I will meet you back here. Now, if you are working the child size, you're going to continue your rounds around and around and around until you get the depth of the crown that you like. Now that should be approximately maybe 6 or 7 braids going down. So the longer you make it, the more of a slouch you're going to have. Let me show you for example. If I stopped this one right here, it's going to be more like a cap. It's going to be a short crown. Now I went ahead and I made it longer. So that way, when I put it on, it's going to have a slouch to it. See? So go ahead and continue that around Like I said, you are doing one more extra increase round. This is our increase round for an adult size. For a child size, you're just going to be working around and around, switching off through your half double crochet rows and your half double crochet loop roll rows. Okay, so I have grown my beanie all the way to the size that I want for the crown, minus what I want to add for the ribbing. So now what I'm going to do, what I have also done is for my adult size, I've grown it to 10 loops tall, which is my braiding. 10 going all the way up. Now I finished out my round of half double crochets. Now where I stopped was, here's my last looping row. I finished out one round of half double crochets, another round of half double crochets, and now the round that I'm going to be working will be the last round of half double crochets, securing my braids. My loops are going to turn into braids, so my last round of half double crochets is going to secure those, and that's also where we're going to be doing our decrease. So what you want to do now is find your middle. We're going to put together all of our loops, okay? So starting from one loop down the middle, we're going to go up and find the loop that's next to it. Now, whichever direction you are going to go, be consistent and also be cautious, because if you do make a mistake on these loops and you secure them, you're going to have to frog back several rows in order to fix that. So you can either do this with your fingers like I'm doing, or you can take your hook and do it with your hook. So whatever is more convenient for you. So that's my first braid. Now I'm going to move down and I'm going to find my second row of braids, and I'm going to pull all of those up. And I'm going to secure my braids, like I said, with my last row of half double crochets. But I want to make sure my braids are all in the proper places before we start securing those. So go ahead and make sure that all of your braids are in the right spot, that they're not twisted up. And then we'll get started on our half double crochet row to secure them, as well as to decrease. And I'll meet you right back. Okay, so now that I have braided up my chains, made sure that all of my loops are attached and they're all attached into the proper place, let me show you how we're going to work our last row before our brim and to secure it, and I'll show you how to work the last row before the brim and how to secure it. So what we're going to do is we are going to find the loop that we're working right before. We're going to count up. This is the stitch right above it. This is the next stitch, and this is the loop for that stitch. Now it does twist. We are going to count over 1, 2. So from here you've got 2 over, and that's where our first decrease is going to be. So we're going to yarn over, stick our hook through the loop, stick our hook into that next stitch, and pull up a loop. And now you should have 3 loops on your hook. Don't yarn over, but you are going to go right inside that loop again. Put your hook into the next stitch and pull up a loop. So you have 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all 4. And that's how we're going to do our decrease. So we've got 1, 2, stitch is worked with part of our half double crochet. So this will be our first, second. So that is our decrease. Now the way that we work the one that's not decreasing, we are going to do the same. We're going to find where the loop is at, go up 1 row, go up 2 rows, and then count over 2 stitches. So we're going to half double crochet up to that stitch, and then this stitch is where we'll secure our loop. Only we're not going to do the 2 together. So just like that. And then we will half double crochet. Now depending on how wide you made yours, your half double crochets in between are going to be different number than mine. If you went to 48 stitches or if you went above 60 to 72. So it's going to be a little different. Okay, so from our stitch up over 2. This is one of our decreasing. This one we did not decrease, so this one we will decrease. Through the loop, through the stitch, pull up, back through the loop and through the stitch, pull up, 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all, and then continue. So go ahead and do that all the way around, and I'll meet you back to show you how to get started on the brim. Okay, so here I am at the end of my round. I have completed all the way to where my first stitch was. So what I am going to do here, I've got a half double crochet, and now I'm going to step down and do a single crochet. And then what I'm going to do is slip stitch to the top of my first stitch that secured my braid. Okay, so from here, this is going to be the first round of our brim. We are going to chain 2. Okay, now around this stitch, this half double crochet around the post, now we're going to be working double crochet post stitches. So not half double crochet, double crochet. So we're yarning over. Our first one is going to be around the post of your first braided secure end, and we're going to put a double crochet. And now we're alternating. Now we've got 1 back post double crochet and 1 front post double crochet. 1 back post double crochet and 1 front post double crochet. You're going to do that all the way around, and then we will slip stitch to the beginning of the round and do it all over again. I'll meet you right back here. Alright, so here I am, 1 stitch right before I close up the first round from my brim. You should be ending with the back post double crochet, and that's because we started with the front post double crochet, so your stitches should be an even number. And now we're going to slip stitch to the top of your first front post double crochet, just like that. Now you're going to chain 2. This will be your repeat round. You're going to front post double crochet around your front post double crochet, and then you'll put a back post double crochet around the next back post, and we're just going to follow that all the way around. Now depending on the size that you like your brim, you can do that 4 or 5 repeats, more or less, just depending on what you like and what your personal preference is.